Hello everybody, my name is Senkara, and this is my deck profile for the Hamon Control, or it's more of a Hamon Lockdown. It's both a control and a lockdown. Now, if you haven't already, be sure to check out Tuesday's video in which I showcased this deck in a number of different duels, and it was a very exciting time. But be sure to watch that so that you really understand how this deck works, and now I'll explain everything in this video. So let's get right to it. So this deck is an artifact Hamon deck. The artifact engine is not that big, but it definitely adds to it. So the reason, the way that I came up for this was, first of all, next deck is obviously we're focusing on Hamon, and Hamon's spell card, which is pretty awesome, Cerulean Sky Fire. So that was the main focus that I wanted. Now, what kind of monster engine works well with Hamon? Of course, my first guess was Crystal Beast, but I couldn't really fit that in, and with this spell card, I really wanted a sort of control theme, and then I thought of the artifacts. Artifacts can set themselves as spell cards, which can be sacrificed to summon Hamon if you have Cerulean Sky Fire out on the field. So that's why we have an artifact Hamon deck. So let me just go through this and explain why everything is the way it is. So first of all, we'll go through the artifact engine. So we have one artifact Moral Touch? That guy, the big sword, one artifact Moral, and two artifact Scythe, sorry. So these are your artifact monsters. You're normally going to go for Scythe to switch off the extra deck plays, but sometimes you'll want Moral Tack to get rid of a pesky card on the field, if your opponent is not going for an extra deck play. But if it looks like they're going into the extra deck, then you want to bust out the Scythe as soon as possible to stop them from doing that, and basically shut down the extra deck for a turn, which will be long enough. Next we have the artifact spells and traps. So we have one artifact Ignition. This gets rid of a spell or trap on the field, your opponent's field. It can also get rid of one of your artifacts if you set it from the hand, and it sets an artifact from your deck, which is great as well, I guess. Next we have three artifact Sanctums. This is the main way that you're going to get out your artifact monsters. So you want to activate this card on your opponent's turn, of course, so that you get off your artifact's effects. And basically it just summons an artifact from your deck, and then when that's summoned during your opponent's turn, they get their effects, which either destroys or shuts down the extra deck for a turn. So that's the basic artifact engine. I mean, we've seen this sort of thing before. You know how it works. It's just Sanctum into an artifact into control the field, basically. Next we have the Sacred Beast engine. So this is where it really gets fun. Okay, start off with one Chaos Summoning Beast, 3 Dark Beckoning Beast, and 1 Dark Summoning Beast. That's the monster lineup. I've been over this before in last week's video. Basically, this is really all you need. You don't need more Dark Summoning Beasts or Chaos Summoning Beasts if you're just running one of the Sacred Beasts. I mean, with this lineup, it's really, really easy to get out all 3 of them. Oddly enough. Like, it really is ridiculously easy. And you only need one on the field, realistically, but getting out more just adds, more damage, more plays. But this engine alone is enough to get out all 3 of them when you only need one. Chaos Summoning Beast, of course, also adds Fallen Paradise, and Dark Beckoning Beast is your main searcher for all of your Sacred Beast cards, and Dark Summoning Beast can also be used to get Hamon to your hand. Next we have 3 Opening of the Spirit Gates. This is, again, one of the main searches for the Sacred Beast engine. You'll usually use it to search your Dark Beckoning Beast, unless you searched it with Dark Beckoning Beast, in which you'll go into Summoning Beast or Chaos Summoning Beast. So either way, yeah, main searcher, you know how it works. Finally, we have 2 Fallen Paradise for added protection to Hamon, and Hyperblaze, just in case our Hamon goes to the graveyard, you can use this to bring it back to your hand or field if it was summoned correctly. Next up, we have the actual lockdown. So this is the core part of the deck. This is what cripples your opponent, and it's absolutely amazing. So of course we have 3 Hamon Lord of Striking Thunder. This is a Hamon deck. We need 3 of them. We want to get him out. We need at least 1 out. Preferably have all 3 would be like amazing. So with Hamon's effect, you summon him by sending 3 continuous spells you control to the graveyard. Normally that's how it works, but I'll go over a different way to summon it later. If it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, your opponent takes 1,000 points of damage, which is, it's nice. But the other important effect is, while this card is in defense position, monsters your opponent controls cannot target monsters for attacks except this one. So this is important to note because if you have Cerulean Sky Fire, you want him in attack mode. If you don't, and you're summoning him with Dark Summoning Beast, or you're summoning him on the first turn of the game, then you should probably put him in defense mode, especially if you have other monsters or one of the artifacts ready to go. That's just important to note so that you don't, your other monsters don't get attacked, because they all have 0 attack points and generally put in attack position. So yeah, summoning Hamon in defense mode is good. His attack and defense are exactly the same, so it doesn't matter. Then you switch into attack mode when you're ready to attack. So next we have Cerulean Sky Fire. Now obviously you can summon Hamon with his effect, with Dark Summoning Beast, or with Chaos Summoning Beast. They all work. And then there's also Cerulean Sky Fire. So this card is the core of the deck. This is how I came up with the lockdown in the first place. So this card is amazing. First of all, it allows you to summon Hamon using face down spells you control, which includes the artifacts or any face down spells in order to summon him. So you just send 3 spells on the field to the graveyard and you can summon Hamon. Now, the important part is once per turn, if you control an attack position Hamon, you can negate any spell or trap effect that your opponent activates and then switch said Hamon to defense mode. So this effect is absolutely amazing. It also prevents damage if Hamon leaves the field, so that's cool. But this effect is amazing. So basically once per turn, as long as you have Hamon, you can negate any spell or trap effect that your opponent activates, which is ridiculous. Now it is only once per turn, of course, but like once per turn is all you need, and it pretty much has no cost. Like, there is very little chance that you won't have a Hamon on the field, and if your opponent tries to get rid of it, first of all, Fallen Paradise, second of all, Mirage, and third of all, you can negate said cards. So it's pretty hard to get rid of with this setup, and the odds that you will have at least either Cerulean Sky Fire or Fallen Paradise. If you don't, that's very unlucky. It's very unlucky. It can happen, but it's very unlucky, and you'll get it soon enough, and then another Hamon. So you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You can definitely pull this off. So we need 3 Cerulean Sky Fires because this is the main negator. It negates anything pretty much. Next up, we have the actual lockdown. So this is 2 Legacy of the Duelist and 2 Anti-Spell Fragrance. So let me explain how this works. Legacy of the Duelist, I'll let you read through that on your own. It has some pretty awesome effects, but the main one that we want to focus on is each player can only set 1 spell or trap card from their hand per turn, right? So you can only set 1 spell or trap per turn. You can activate as many spells as you want, but you can only set 1 each turn. Of course, with Anti-Spell Fragrance, both players must set spells before activating them. So this already really slows down your opponent. It doesn't slow down you as much because by the time you activate it, you should have pretty much everything that you need, and you don't really need to activate any more spells, and you can afford to wait a turn to activate Legacy of the Duelist if it's not on the field. But with Anti-Spell Fragrance, this will completely slow down your opponent. With Anti-Spell Fragrance plus Legacy of the Duelist, this basically cripples your opponent. So not only do they have to wait a turn before activating their spell cards, but they can only set 1 each turn and then wait for it. So this just breaks down spell combinations pretty much. And to add to the pain, Cerulean Sky Fire, so they have to first set a spell card. They can only set 1, then next turn set another spell card. They can only set 1, and then finally on the 3rd turn, they can activate both of them. One of them will be negated, and then the final one can go off. That is the only way in which they can ever activate a spell or a trap. That's it. That's all there is. If they try to do one at a time, then it gets negated. It gets negated. So this just slows down the deck and basically locks it down for 3 turns, pretty much. It makes it very difficult for your opponent to play any spells or traps, which means they won't be able to get over your huge-ass 4,000 point monster, right? Tell me a way to get over this guy without using any spells and traps. There is none. It's hard. It's too hard. You can't do it. Don't lie to me, unless you're running Exodios, in which case maybe, or something like that. But let's be real here. That's not happening. That is not happening, right? It's very unlikely that you'll be able to do that with no spells and traps. So, yeah, and finally we have Skill Drain. Skill Drain will stop Hamon from activating his effects, but by this point, you don't really need to. This will just turn off your opponent's monsters, basically, because they still are a threat. Fallen Paradise will protect Hamon, but if they get rid of that and then Hamon, it's still a danger, so Skill Drain just shuts that off completely. And with this setup, your opponent can do nothing. It's 4 cards, 5 cards, including Hamon, which does seem like a lot, but it's not actually that hard to get it all out, and also you don't need it all out. As long as you have Cerulean Sky Fire, or any of these basically, it makes things difficult for your opponent, especially Cerulean Sky Fire and Skill Drain, and just having Hamon on the field in general with some protection of some sort. It just makes things really difficult for your opponent, so you don't actually need the full lockdown. Again, check out Tuesday's video where you see me going through, and most of the time I didn't use the full lockdown, but when I did, there was nothing that your opponent can do. Like, there's nothing. So it is a lot of cards for a lockdown, but it's a complete full lockdown, and it's Hamon. It's not that hard to get because we have 2 of each, and that doesn't slow you down in any way as well. They don't become dead cards, so it's fine to have 2 of each, plus a 3 Cerulean Sky Fire. And just, if you have this, like, it's pretty much, it's really hard to get over. It's really hard to get over. Plus, we have Pot of Greed once per turn with Fallen Paradise, so, like, it's really not hard to get all the combo pieces out. Finally, we just have some floaters in the deck. So we got 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Ash Blossom can be definitely, you know, pretty important to just stop your opponent's plays. Again, it's all focused on control and shutting down. 3 Pot of Extravagance, like I said before, those Pots of Greed every turn to get all your combo pieces out is important, so 3 Extravagance, just to make sure you can actually get Hamon plus something else would be good. A Terraforming to search Fallen Paradise. Called by the Grave, again, very important, should be at 3, I don't know why it's not, but Called by the Grave, very important. This deck does rely on searching with the Sacred Beast engine, so yeah, you don't want to get Ash Blossom, that's basically it. You just really got to watch out for that Ash Blossom. Unfortunately, we can only have 1. I wish we were in the OCG, we could have 2, as well as Macrocosmos. And Skill Drain, damn. Anyway. And finally, we have a Harpy's Feather Duster, pretty standard, get rid of spells and traps, and 2 Infinite Impermanence to shut down some monster effects. These are basically your extra skill drains, kind of. They also turn off spell and trap effects, so it's a good card, you know, like, you won't say no to Infinite Impermanence. So that's the basics of the main deck. Now I'll quickly run over the extra deck. There's not as much in the extra deck. The extra deck is more of a backup play. But it is there, and so we'll still go over it. There is like one or 2 pretty important cards. So first of all, we have Artifact Durandal. This is just to add to the Artifact engine. It does some pretty awesome stuff, which you can read by yourself. Again, it's not that important, but it may come up. It never came up in any of Tuesday's duels. You know, it's not the most important, but yeah, it's just a card that we have, and it does some pretty awesome stuff as well. Next we have Chronomaly Vimana. This card is just pretty cool, can shut down effects if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this card can negate the activation of a monster effect by attaching 2 materials, so again, that just adds to the control. Constella Pleiades, this guy, the Constella, yep, gets rid of cards on the field, so it just gets rid of any troublesome card. Finally, we have the number 81, Gustav Max, and Juggernaut Liebe. I mean, you should be expecting this by now. This is pretty standard in any Sacred Beast deck. Yeah, getting the Gustav Max, definitely handy for finishing off your opponent if they somehow survive the onslaught of 2 Hamons. Then, yeah, Gustav Max will pretty much finish them off. It should be an OTK if you have 2 Hamons and your opponent's not just fully defended. But in any case, Juggernaut Liebe is also an OTK card in himself, so yeah, you want all these. You want these, and this is just added protection. It can come in handy, you never know. But it's mainly these 2. Next up, we got Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess. Again, this is just for more control and negation, so that's why we have her. Artifact Dagda for the Artifact engine, can help search out your artifacts and do stuff with them, so it's a pretty awesome card. Again, I don't go into it much, but if for whatever reason I do need an artifact to come out, then this is definitely a helpful card. Barricade Board Blocker. This guy, again, you probably won't need it because we have so much search power that you don't really need it, but it can definitely be helpful to get out your combo pieces. He adds continuous or field spells from your graveyard to your hand, so it just gets those cards back and is a pretty helpful card in general. Next we have Boral Sword Dragon, Nightmare Cerberus, Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Unicorn, of course. These just, again, getting rid of cards. These are just some good monsters. And finally, 2 Salamangreat Almirage. Almirage is a important card in the extra deck. You'll go into this card quite a bit. He's mainly there to, 1, get rid of your Dark Beckoning Beast, which is an attack position on the field, and you don't want that. He has 0 attack points, so it gets rid of that. Also, Dark Summoning Beast gets rid of it, but if you decide to go into Chaos Summoning Beast instead, then you will be left with a Dark Beckoning Beast sitting on the field doing nothing with 0 attack points. But it also protects your Hamon from any danger with its quick effect, can prevent it from being destroyed by your opponent's card effects, which is just awesome to add further protection to Hamon if you don't have Fallen Paradise. And then next turn, you'll probably get Fallen Paradise anyway. I mean, let's be real. So, yeah, that's the deck. It's a pretty awesome. It's really fun to play. I do very much enjoy control decks. I mean, I mained Macrocosmos back in the day. That's my deck. So, I very much enjoy control decks. And this deck is a lot of fun. And it's great to have the Sacred Beasts out. And just to use one of them. To have a deck dedicated to a single Sacred Beast. It's pretty awesome. You don't see it a lot these days. So that's what the series is all about. The series Demon's Rise. Be sure to subscribe because next week we'll be going out over our Raviel deck. Last week we did a Uriah deck. And don't forget to check out Tuesday's video, just this past Tuesday, where I showed off this deck in action. It's definitely worth the watch, and my editor did an awesome job with like some pretty cool edits on it. So be sure to check that out. It's a lot of fun, and it's really cool to watch and see this deck in action. If you use this deck for yourself, let me know how it goes. Let me know if you win, lose, any suggestions that you have for it as well. And yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and thank you also very much for watching. My name has been Senkara, and until next time, see ya.